What is your point of reference? What is your point of reference as a man? What is your point of reference as a woman? What is your point of reference as a father, a mother? What is your point of reference for love, your career, your surroundings, self-respect, your goals? What is your point of reference? I'm talking to somebody out there. You have horrible taste in friends. You have horrible taste in picking boyfriends, girlfriends. You have horrible taste in trusting people. What is your point of reference? Because you're 21 and older doesn't make you a man. Because you're capable of making a child doesn't make you a mother or a father. If you've witnessed failure all your life, you're either going to decide to break the cycle, or without you being conscious of it, you're a part of the cycle. You have become a duplicate of your mother and your father. You have become a duplicate of everything and everybody that you grew up around. Because why? That is your point of reference. That is the blueprint. You have become your mother and father without you knowing. Here's a little secret. I don't drink and I don't smoke. I don't do any type of drugs, ever. Because my life as a kid was consumed in all forms of alcohol and drug abuse. It completely turned me off. I decided I don't want to be like my mama or my daddy. People in my family, my boys, my homegirls, my surrounding, I want nothing to do with it. It was a conscious decision. I could have easily became a duplicate.
And I wonder how many people today are watching this message right now and you're trying to do it like someone else. You're trying to be just like somebody else. You're just a copycat and you're wondering, how come I feel stuck? How come I can't move forward? I got a feeling. Why don't you shed off that other person's armor and why don't you walk it out the way God called you to walk it out?
I am strong. I am talented. I am healthy, I am valuable. Those are not just positive affirmations. You just invoked a blessing on yourself. When you speak it out, you give life to what you're saying. It's not enough to just think this. You don't bless yourself by just dwelling on positive thoughts. Nothing happens until you speak. When you say, I am blessed, blessings come looking for you. When you say, I am prosperous, good breaks start heading your way. You have to say, I am confident, before you're going to feel confident. If you'll say it long enough, what happens is those words get down in your spirit. You believe what you say about yourself more than what anyone else says about you. When you hear yourself day after day, I am healthy, I am talented, I am confident, I am valuable, it's changing how you see yourself. Over time, you're going to become what you're saying. You are who you are in part today because of what you've been speaking over your life.
And what you believe about what you can be and what you believe about what you have inside of you and what you believe about what God called you to do and what you believe about what you're going through. That's what I'm talking about. The currency of confidence. So when you're young, you start borrowing confidence from the wrong places. You borrow confidence from sexual attractiveness. Partner after partner after partner after partner. And rather than ever being in a real relationship, the good part, where you have to love somebody for who they are, not what they look like, you take this feeling of, oh, I have somebody, and you borrow the confidence of having somebody. But when you borrow confidence from the wrong places, the interest rate is ridiculous. I'm talking about when you get in a relationship where you have to compromise your values to get your needs met. Y'all, that's worse than the check cash in place. It's an interest rate. And let me tell you another thing. While I got you fired up about all the people that you kept going to because you wanted them to validate you, but they can't because they're not God. They didn't make you. They don't know you like that. And they have their own insecurities. So leave them alone and get it from God. You keep trying to borrow confidence from people who have insufficient funds. They can't do it. They can't.
As a man, if my father was married to my mother for 30 years, I'll find myself looking for someone that reminds me of my mother, because that would be my point of reference. I will find myself trying to do all the things that I witnessed my father do as a husband. That's my point of reference. If my father is successful, he's an entrepreneur, he's constantly grinding, starting up new companies, negotiating, and I see him inspired and motivated all the time about life and career and trying to educate himself and further his way up the success ladder. That will become my blueprint and my point of reference for success. And I'll find myself wanting nothing more than to be a duplicate of my father, because that is my successful point of reference. Have you become a duplicate of your mother? Have you become a duplicate of your father? Have you become a duplicate of your parents, of your environment? See, I believe that we were all born individuals. God made me an individual. My head is not connected to anybody else. I am my own man. God made me individually me, so I can do and be and become anything I want to become. What is your point of reference?
Opposites in conflict. That seems to be the setup for a human adventure. One contesting against the other, vying for the territory. Would there be light without darkness? We probably wouldn't call it light. What gives us the value of one is the contrast of the other. But darkness is always trying to move in and take all the territory. But if you turn on the light, its energy starts to repel darkness. Darkness begins to move away. And the brighter the light, the further away the darkness must move. If you walk into a dark room and turn on the light, the darkness is what? Gone. But here's the point to remember, not very far. The darkness seems to be, yes, it's gone, but it's waiting for its chance. That if light loses its energy, darkness has a chance now to move back in. The better realistic illustrations, and that's health and illness at odds in your body. Illness trying its best to drive health into a small corner and occupy the territory. And health trying what? To push illness into a small corner. There's this contest going on. Who's going to occupy the territory? If one stays strong, the other is diminished. If the other gains in power, then the other is diminished. So what you must learn to do is cooperate with the positive side of everything in your body and your life. Sometimes we sabotage our own best interest. The body needs a banana, you send it a Coca-Cola. And the body says, what is the deal here? I'm health trying to drive illness into a small corner. I ordered a banana, you send me a Coca-Cola. So the body could rightfully say what? Whose side are you on? Give us a break here. We need every tool we can get to keep illness at bay. Because if we get weak, I'm telling you, it moves in, takes the territory. So we're in the middle of this contest, and here's what it's called, opposites in conflict. Here's one of the bigger conflicts, liberty and tyranny. Liberty is the absence of tyranny. But even though tyranny is conquered, it's not very far away. The same goes on in your bloodstream. Red corpuscles to nourish like a mother and give life. White corpuscles to fight and kill like a father. White corpuscles say, just show me some infection, I'll kill it. If I don't kill it, what? It killed you. Somebody's gonna get killed. In this contest, right? Good, evil, liberty, tyranny, right? Health, illness, winning and losing. There's the struggle going on. But here's the key. It's the only way, it seems, it's the only way to create a human adventure. Doesn't seem to be any other way, currently. Now some speak of a new heaven and a new earth. Maybe the whole arrangement will be different. Could very well be, but in this current experience, it seems like to create an adventure, to create a unique human scenario, we need opposites in conflict. That's the deal. You've always got to draw a line somewhere and tell illness, hey, you can't have any more. got to throw up the barriers, draw a line in the sand. Tyranny cannot be rehabilitated. Tyranny can only be restrained. We must play this game. We must fight this game. But here's what it creates: a great adventure. Let me give you the ultimate now. Could you win if you couldn't lose? And the answer is no, it doesn't seem like it. You couldn't call it winning. You can't win if you couldn't lose. So that's the deal now. Negative, positive. Would there be negative, positive without negative? No, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like this is the current setup.
The invisible is often more real than the visible. That sometimes the stuff that we collect, that we say is real, is less real than the stuff that we neglect because we can't see it. I'm talking about your state of mind. I'm talking about your relationships with others. I'm talking about the way that you process disappointment, those things, the way that you treat people who can't do anything for you, those things. You have this visible kingdom world, but there is an invisible kingdom within you that is more important than the kingdom around you.
Set your life on fire and seek those who fan your flames. Don't be hanging with no jank-ass jokers that don't help you shine. The prerequisite for spending time with any person is that they nourish and inspire you. They feed your flame. There's been very few times in my life that I looked left or looked right and didn't find a person who believed and supported me. There's always been a person beside me fanning my flames. Look at your last 5 text messages. Are those people feeding your flames or dousing your fire? The people that you spend time with are going to make or break your dreams. Everybody don't deserve to be around you. Look to the people around you. Are those people throwing logs on your fire or are they pissing on it? You got to defend your light with your life.
If you can't detach from yourself, then you can't see yourself. And so how do you detach from yourself? How do you learn to do that? And a good drill for this is try to imagine the way other people see you and what other people are thinking of you. One place where this happens, and it definitely happened to me, is when I started getting put in charge of things, I started thinking about other people's perspectives. If you're in charge, then what kind of representation are they receiving? And if you work for someone else, it's the same questions. What does the boss see me do? What kind of representation am I making of myself to my boss? So the question becomes, how well do you represent yourself? What shortfalls do you have? Now, when you first start looking, it's like you're looking at an overgrown lawn. There are some big, obvious problems, so you do a broad, just kind of general cut of the grass. You fix some of the big, easy problems. And once you've done that, once you've gotten rid of some of those big, obvious problems, you notice some more detailed problems. So you start trying to fix them.
You know, for the foreseeable future, it looks like it's been that way as long as we can remember and as long as the history tells us. So here's what you want to do if you want the adventure. You must learn to play this game, to work with all the positive forces to defeat the negative forces as early and as soon and as much as possible, to contain the ravages of disease that want to take you early. You got to fight back. You can't just leave it. Somebody says, well, I got my fingers crossed. Not a good philosophy. Jump on the positive side of whatever you want and see if you can't help out in this warfare and this push-shove match. That's the key. Don't neglect a new life if you've started a new life. What if you said to a brand new mother, where is your baby? She says, I have no idea. You would say, no, that isn't right. If you start a new life, you must care for it. You must protect it. You must give it life, give it nourishment. Now here's the other part. You must protect it. That's why the old wise man said, we must learn to love and hate. So underline that. You must learn to love and hate. And the illustration he used was, you must learn to love good and hate evil. To deal with the weeds in your garden, you got to hate weeds. You got to hate them enough to what? Kill them. You can't say, well, poor weeds. Say, no, this ain't the deal, poor weeds. Don't go soft on this stuff now. You got to hate evil. You got to hate the weeds that are out to destroy your garden and rob your children of the nourishment they deserve. You got to take the life of the weeds, or they will take the life of your garden. Somebody's going to get killed. Remember? So, learn the good evil. Now, here's the greatest battle in the mind. Here's what you must not become: a victim of yourself. What is that insidious voice inside your own head that says, you're too short, it'll never work for you, you're too tall, right? It's over for you, right? It's never worked for you before. What gives you any idea that it'll work for you now? You've never been able to rise up and take charge of your life. What makes you think you can do it now? There's going to be too many obstacles out there. You'll never overcome them all. What is that insidious voice? It's the same game going on inside your head that's going on in the world. Liberty and tyranny in a push-shove match. And here's what you've got to do. Cooperate with the positive side of your life and let faith drive out doubt, right? Let winning drive out losing. Let positive drive out negative. But you got to get into the contest. And why get into the contest? Because that's how you create an adventure. There is no other way. It takes both. You've got to learn to laugh, yes, but that's not what the wise men only said. You can't just learn to laugh and keep on laughing. No, that's silly. It says there's also a time to cry. You've got to learn to both laugh and cry. Then it said you must be so sophisticated as not to laugh when it's time to cry. That now gives you an understanding of what life is all about. Sadness and joy, the contest, the difference. And yet it creates the adventure. It takes both to create an adventure. But here's the adventure: to overcome the evil, to put evil in its place. Just like in your mind, you've got to stand guard at the door of your mind and see if you can't suppress, see if you can't do battle with the negative forces. Don't become a victim of yourself. Beware of the thief on the street that's after your purse. But also beware of the thief in your mind that's after your promise. And see if you can't engage in this mental contest and win the day.
Credit goes to our awesome patrons who make videos like this one possible. Consider joining them to support our work. You can also support us by subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell button to get notified when our new videos are released. And as always, thank you for watching.
Just check the circle of your friends. The people around you, the more time you spend with them, I don't care who you are, you're going to become like them. We're not talking about acquaintances. We're not talking about friends at work. We're talking about our circle of friends. The friends in your life are shaping the future of your life.
Do you have those people in life that appeal to the worst in you and not the best in you? And whenever they connect with you, they bring you down to where you were before?
Who do you allow to be in your ear? What kind of relationships are you developing? Are they an asset to you, or they are a liability? Do they elevate your spirits, or do they tear you down? We get two types of people: nourishing people and toxic people. Nourishing people, they bring the best out of you. They encourage you, they inspire you, they hold you accountable. Toxic people, they are critical people, always telling you what you can't do. They're always measuring your possibilities based upon their failures. They don't know what's possible for you. My mother said, never let anybody tell you what you can't do, son, especially if they haven't done it. So as you begin to look at yourself, begin to identify the relationships that you communicate with most and say, hey, is this relationship helpful to me?
Loyalty has an expiration date. The problem is,
It's when you're the nice person, your loyalty lasts far longer to certain people than it should, because their loyalty to you has been expired. But you being the good person, you hang on to friendships and become forgiving far longer than you really should be. Loyalty has an expiration date.
Something in front of you strong enough to give you the courage to let go of the system behind you. I know you're gonna get scared and run back every now and then. We already admitted that, but I want you to understand that what God thought about you is truer than what you thought about you.
Everything you're going through is preparing you for what you asked God for. You just gotta quit tripping while you're in the process, because the process is necessary. You may not see it now, but when he gets you on the other side of it, you're gonna see exactly why it went that way, and you're gonna be okay with it.
I must be inclined that it's somebody who's holding back on a decision, holding back on moving forward, and you're holding back because of fear. Fear of being rejected, being replaced, fear of people that you want to accept you won't accept you. When fear controls you, your decisions become illogical. And it's a problem because God is not the author or the generator of fear.
You need to learn to think, because thinking makes you act effectively in the world. Thinking makes you win the battles you undertake, and those could be battles for good things. If you can think and speak and write, you are absolutely deadly. Nothing can get in your way.
Trying to handle heartbreak, it's so important that we understand there has to be output to our life. Listen to me, if you're broken, don't take a break. Don't let the person who didn't love you stop you from meeting the person who will love you. See, what the enemy wants to do is the enemy wants to isolate you. And the enemy wants you to find some valley, and he wants you to camp out in that valley and say, nobody understands me, and nobody knows how bad my heart is broken, and nobody gets me, and because nobody gets me, I'm gonna go and do this thing all on my own. But I have come to remind you that that is a lie from the pit of hell. That is simply a reaction. And if you're ever gonna rebuild, it's gonna require to share with one another and walk through it together.
I'm going to make it. It's possible. Your dream is possible. Say that to yourself every day. Feed your mind with words that you write and words that you speak to yourself. Feed your faith, and your doubts will starve to death. It's possible. It's possible. Even when you have no evidence to point to, say to yourself, it's possible. There's nothing as powerful as a made-up mind. It's a struggle sometimes to do that, especially when you have people around you telling you that it's not possible. And they're constantly pointing out your failures of the past, constantly reminding you of all of the things that you don't have going for you.
Trust is reliance, or to rely on God's integrity, to lean and to rely on God's ability. It is a confident expectation of something. Who or what are you leaning on in the midst of hard times, in the midst of lack, in the midst of hurt? Who do you lean on the most?
I cannot tell you to let go of a system and not have something to hold on to. After all, this is all you ever had. This is what I'm familiar with. Even if I'm familiar with something that's killing me and hindering me and dwarfing me and retarding my growth, it's my normal. Even though it's not normal, it's my normal. It's my normal.
There's a battle of two systems here. It's the system of God and it's the system of this world. And you're going to have to choose. And I have chosen the system of God over the system of the world. Anything that's working in the world, it came from God.
I got my new system on Monday and Tuesday. And Tuesday night, I relapsed, and I got my old system. And Wednesday morning I say, no, we're not going together no more. And I put it down and I go back and I get my new sister. And then some scar scares me and I go back and I get my old system until finally I develop the ability to trust my new.
Life seemingly does not wish to waste success on the unprepared. Life says, why waste a fortune on this person? They're not prepared to do the right things with it. They're not prepared to use it wisely. So not only look for fortune, not only look for the promise, but prepare yourself and ask of yourself, what can I do to make myself ready?
Trying to handle heartbreak, it's so important that we understand there has to be output to our life. Don't let the person who didn't love you stop you from meeting the person who will love you. See, what the enemy wants to do is the enemy wants to isolate you. And the enemy wants you to find some valley, and he wants you to camp out in that valley and say, nobody understands me and nobody gets me, and because nobody gets me, I'm gonna go and do this thing all on my own. But I have come to remind you that that is a lie from the pit of hell. That is simply a reaction. And if you're ever gonna rebuild, it's gonna require to share with one another and walk through it together.
Life was designed not to give us what we want, not to give us what we need, but life was designed to give us what we deserve. It says those that give, receive. Someone says, I wish to receive, I wish to receive. You don't have to concentrate on receive. Just become a good giver. It says those that search will find. Someone says, well, I need to find some good ideas to help change my life for the future. Then to find good ideas, that doesn't come because you need them, because it comes because you search for it.
How many marriages have ended because of social media? Your grandparents that's been married for 30, 40, 50 years did not have social media to contribute to the dysfunction of their marriage. We are growing up in a technology age where communicating and social networking has went to a whole nother stratosphere. So technically it's became even more challenging to be in a functioning, healthy marriage or relationship.
And I want to walk you down the road until what he thinks about you begins to hit the ground and you become seed to the sower. And people are glad to see you coming because God is going to make bread out of your life. You've been crushed, you've been pressed, you've been pulverized, but God said, I'm going to make you nourishment. I'm going to make you strength to somebody.
If he was through with you, you would not wake up in the morning. He gonna fix it. But now, God can't give you what you want because you want to hold on to what you got. You all in the way. It's a simple process. The only reason I'm telling you this, because this is how I made it. I just do me. I stay uniquely who I am. Because God made you uniquely who you are. He wanted you to be just like you are.
How easy is it to get up in the morning when you know you're not doing all that it takes? It's not very easy at all. You can just lay there awake thinking, oh, what's a few more minutes in bed? It won't matter much anyway. Wrong. It does matter. It will matter. Now, how easy is it to get up in the morning when you're pouring it on, doing the best you can, anxious to get going, make progress toward your dreams? It's a whole different story. When you're resting to renew your reserves, it's much different than resting to avoid your day. When you're psyched up and excited for your life, when you're excited for what you've planned to accomplish for the day, it's amazing. You'll wake up before the alarm clock even tries to startle you awake. Your successes fuel your ambition. Your successes give you extra energy. Your successes pave the way for more successes. It's the snowball effect. With one success, you're excited to meet another, and another, and another. And pretty soon, The disciplines that were so difficult in the beginning, the disciplines that got you going, are now part of your philosophy. How do you know when you're successful? Do you have to be a millionaire? No. All we ask of you is that you earn all you possibly can. If you earn $10,000 a year and that's the best you can do, that's enough. God and everything else will see to it that you're okay. The key is to just do the best you can. If it's $10,000 a year, wonderful. If it's $100,000 a year, wonderful. If it's $1 million a year, wonderful. It doesn't matter $10,000 a year or $1 million a year. It doesn't matter as long as you've done the best you possibly can. Earn the most you possibly can. Be the most you possibly can. And here's why. The essence of life is growth. The essence of life is growth, to do the best you can. And here's what's interesting. Humans are the only life form that will do less than they possibly can. Humans are the only life form that will settle for less. Every other life form except human beings strive to its maximum capacity. How tall will a tree grow? Approximately. As tall as it possibly can. You never heard of a tree growing half as high as it could. No, trees don't grow half. Trees send their roots down as deep as possible, stretch their limbs up as high as possible, produce every leaf possible and every fruit possible. As a matter of fact, you never heard of a human physically growing half. We keep growing until we're done. Now that's a part of life we can't control.
Find out who you're associating with. If those people add something to you, if they give you something in return, or is it all just a give and take, meaning like they just take and then you give? That's a bad relationship, man. Get the negative energy out of life. These people that you're around, they're always complaining and everything else. They're taking part of your soul. You only have so much to give every single day. Why waste it on that, guys? You gotta love yourself in order to love somebody else, guys. You gotta be whole and happy with who you are if you can never help somebody else out. People say, oh, it's selfish to just care about yourself. Well, if you need some fixing and reworking, it's not selfish, because you can get yourself better and then be able to really lend a hand in an honest way to somebody to really help them out.
I want you to ask yourself, do I love myself enough to give myself permission to go after what I want? Like, do I love myself enough to exercise this weekend? Do I love myself enough to study that extra hour? Because when you can start saying yes to loving yourself, you start to realize just how far you're able to go. And I wish people knew that the ability to succeed, it's all inside of you. It's never been hidden. It's just, do you love yourself enough to let it out? The best version of yourself is so beautiful and so amazing. And yes, people may not accept you all the time and they may hurt you, but I don't want you to keep that in, because you were meant to be a certain type of person, and there's somebody out there in this world who needs to see you for who you are.
The growing of our minds, the expansion of our minds, that we can control. And that's what tends to get away from us. All life forms inherently strive to their max except human beings. Now, why wouldn't human beings strive to their maximum possibility? Here's why. Because we've been given the dignity of choice. It makes us different than alligators and trees and birds. The dignity of choice makes us different than all other life forms. And here's the choice: to become part of what we could be, enough to get by, or to become all that we can be. My best advice for you is to choose the all. Earn all you can, make all the friends you can, read as many books as you can, develop as many skills as you can, see as much as possible, do as much as possible, make as much fortune as possible. Give as much of it away as possible. The max. There's no life like it. I'm telling you, once I got on track, I've never looked back. Pick up the challenge. Go for it. Take the best of the two easies. Take the route of it's easy to get ahead. It's easy to do all you can. It's easy to succeed. It's easy to have financial freedom. The more you do, the more you get. So the two primary benefits of positive reinforcement are, number one, to build good habits, and number two, to create more energy, to fuel your ambitions, your desires, your achievements. How can you isolate what's working for you and what isn't? How can you make sure that you are reinforcing your positive disciplines? Well, if it isn't apparent, easy to see right away, if what you're doing is happening in such small increments that you're not sure if you're on track, then you need to be writing it down. You need to keep a journal anyway. But if you really aren't sure that what you're doing is making measurable progress, you need to keep a written record. You need to write down everything that may be relevant in your day. What you did, who you saw, what you felt, how it may or may not affect you now and in the future. The best way to track your activities of the day is to write them down. The best way to track your activities of the week is to write them down. The best way to analyze your progress through the year is to have written it down. Why? So you can look back on it. Because by keeping a written record of your life, you will be more accountable. By putting into writing the action steps that you have planned, you will easily see what works and what doesn't. Most people just try to get through the day, never writing anything down, never keeping track of their progress along the way, never really knowing if they are doing all they can to reach their goals, to drive their ambition. But gifted people learn to get from the day. They don't let a day end without picking up some valuable experience, some emotional content, some idea that may positively affect their future. To get the most from a day, to learn the most from a day, you need to be able to reflect on the day. And how can you reflect on a day unless you record it in history?
When a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, gets its wings, it doesn't just have the ability to crawl faster. It comes into a whole new dimension, from crawling to flying. When you get your wings, you're not going to just be better at what you can do right now. God is going to catapult you into a new dimension. Things are going to happen sooner than you thought. You're going to discover gifts, talents, creativity that you didn't know you had. Where you think, where did this come from? You got your wings. That's God taking you places that you could never go on your own. There's going to be a preparation period between the time God puts the dream in your heart and the time that it comes to pass. It's up to us to pass these tests, to be willing to go through the pregnancy, the uncomfortable season when we don't understand it. We're doing the right thing, but we're not making progress. This is when many people give up on their dreams. They were anointed, but because they wouldn't go through the preparation process, they never gave birth. They never saw the appointing come.
To every person in this room who's had a struggle, who's had some tests, who's got some creative ideas, but you've gone through some really tough stuff. The stuff you've been through, don't pay it any attention. It is just a sign that the baby is coming. You're on the verge of birthing. You're about to give birth. The baby is coming. The baby is coming. The baby is coming. You don't want to leave me now. The baby is coming.
When you're pregnant, the baby is developing on the inside where nobody can see. In those tough times where you're uncomfortable, you're doing the right thing, but the wrong thing is happening, something is developing in you that you can't see. It's getting you prepared. And this is the reason many people never give birth to what's in them. They don't understand the process. God will put a dream in your heart. He'll give you the anointing, then he'll send you back to the shepherd's fields. The appointing will come later.
Anybody who left you is going to miss it. They're going to miss the greatest part of you, the greatest part of your destiny, the greatest part of your creativity. It took everything you went through yesterday to get you ready for what you are about to do today. You are standing on the verge of a great awakening, or you wouldn't be here. If I'm talking to you, make some noise in this place.
You have to think. You can't just feel. You have to think. You know, even when you're taking care of kids, part of what you're doing is being compassionate. But if you're too compassionate towards your kids, then you do everything for them. And if you do everything for them, then they grow up useless and they never leave and they hate you and they hate everything else too. It's a bad idea. Treating your children like they're endless permanent victims is a very bad idea.
What most people fail to realize is that pain is inevitable and it is unavoidable.
Now, if you're the type of person that feel that you got to be the best at everything,
we must unweave every strand of the cable of habit slowly and methodically.
There's 4 more fingers pointed right back at you. On every second of your life because it's yours. No one else is going to give you anything you did not earn or deserve. Life is hard. It's hard, guys, I know it is, but guess what? If you want to live an amazing life, you got to do amazing things. You got to do those things that nobody else wants to do so you can live that life that nobody else can. Get up and just do it. You got to dig. You got to dig deep. You got to own it.
There is no path in life without pain. Whatever it is that you're going after, whoever it is that you've been destined to become, you cannot have it. You will not become it without pain. You will face challenges and difficulties and giants, regardless if you are single, if you are married, if you are a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home father, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're working a 9-to-5, if you're an educator, if you are an athlete, if you are a musician, a singer, a producer, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are doing, pain is inevitable. If I'm going to hurt like this, if I'm going to bleed like this, if I'm going to cry like this, let me cry because I'm in the best shape of my life.
that's a great mindset to have. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Wake up. You can't be the best at everything. And if you're running because you're failing, then you've already failed the test. Because you're not man enough and you're not woman enough to realize that maybe, just maybe, I need to fail. So that the next time I'm faced with a challenge, I know exactly what I need to do. But then there's another one that's coming. There's another challenge waiting on me. And then there's another challenge waiting on me. And then there's another challenge waiting on me. That doesn't mean that you gotta give up. That doesn't mean you gotta quit. You learn from it. You build on it. And then you understand what it means to fail. Learning the things that I've learned in my life, it taught me something.
I don't know what it is for you, but you got to own it. Through all the ups, all the downs, remember that you are not perfect, so get over yourself. One thing I know is that you are perfectly imperfect, just like me. What do you do to better yourself? Are you owning it? Are you taking responsibility, or are you blaming somebody else for the wrongs against you? It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to fix it. It's your life, and nobody else can do it for you. So get up and go do those things that you don't want to do when you don't want to do them anyway.
Let me cry because I'm conditioned to weather the uphill war. Let me cry because I'm building my relationship. I'm building my business. I'm building my legacy. Let me cry because it hurt, but there is a reward on the other end of my pain. Let me cry tears because I passed the test, because I gave it everything I had. Choose your heart. Everything in life comes with hardship. Make a decision. At some juncture, you will encounter pain. And the moment that you get acquainted with pain, you get acquainted with hardship, you realize that no matter what you do, no matter how much you study, no matter how much you plan, you will not be able to avoid a measure of pain.
I fail right now. I'm failing every day. Every day I fail at something. Maybe this is the time for me to recognize that I got work to do. Maybe this is the time that I need to recognize that I'm not so good at everything. Failing is what's going to build you up. Failure is what's going to teach you the lessons in life. It's okay. Don't try to keep up with everybody else. Don't try to be like everybody else. Recognize that you, my friend, are unique and you are beautiful. But most importantly, you are an idea and you are a purpose and you matter in this world. But you're going to have to fail. The failure is good. The quitting isn't. You got to have the grit and the tenacity not to quit. The grit to never quit. But the idea of learning that failure is a part of living. If you want it, if you believe in it, then go get it.
So, get up and get set. Set yourself apart from being average, because you are not average. You are great. It's greatness, that's what it is. It's time for you to get the break that you deserve today and fight this good fight, because you're going to be a fighter every single day for the rest of your life. It's your life. It's your life, so guess what, guys? If you do the hard things in life, life gets easy. But if you do the easy things in life, life is going to be hard. The choice is yours.
Until the cable that once held us in bondage becomes nothing more than scattered strands of wire. It takes the consistent application of a new discipline, a more desirable one to overcome one which is less desirable. It takes discipline to plan. It takes discipline to execute our plan. It takes discipline to look with full objectivity at the results of our applied plan. And it takes discipline to change either our plan or our method of executing that plan if the results are poor. It takes discipline to be firm when the world throws opinions at our feet. It takes discipline to ponder the value of someone else's opinion when our pride and our arrogance leads us to believe that we are the only ones with the answers. Discipline is a constant human awareness of the need for action and a conscious act by us to implement that action.
But the only way it's permanent is that we alter that governor, that thermostat, and we start to believe we're worth 85 degrees of life, 95 degrees of life, 110 degrees of life. And there's ways we can alter them.
How do we alter it?
A couple different ways. One is what you just said, is that you put yourself in circumstances that are demanding of you past what you think your capacity is, and when you succeed at them, you build a new water line. You do. You throw yourself out there past where you're comfortable, and you do an 85 degrees behavior, and you knock it out of the park, and your brain starts to believe it. Repetitiously, when you start doing that, you build a new line. Now you're 85 degrees. That's number one. The second way, though, is association. If you're around people, and whatever that endeavor is, if it's a sport you're in, or if it's a business, or your faith, or your peace, if you begin to associate with people who live in that space at a higher temperature than you, through association you get heated up.
Yeah.
And so if you're an athlete, for example, you're a 70-degree athlete, and you start training all the time with 85 and 90 degrees, your identity through osmosis goes up. If you're a person who's trying to improve their faith in their life or their personal peace about them.
Discipline is an awareness of the constant need for action and a conscious act to implement that action. If our awareness and our implementations occur at the same time, then we begin a valued sequence of disciplined activity. Now here's the other side of discipline. If there's considerable time that passes between the moment of awareness and the time of our implementation, then that is called procrastination. Doing it tomorrow instead of today. Procrastination, an almost exact opposite of discipline. The voice within us says, get it done. Discipline then says, do it now. Do it to the best of your ability, today, tomorrow, and always, until finally, the worthy deed becomes instinctive. Procrastination says later, tomorrow, whenever I get a chance. Procrastination also says, do what is necessary to get by or to impress others,
You all know this. You've seen it. When you start to hang around people that are a little bit more peaceful than you or meditate a little bit more, through that association, over time, the thermostat changes in that area. And so it's both behaving in a certain way and then your associations usually change.
I believe that.
Rule number 2, don't sell your will to win.
Most people's will to win is for sale.
Sometimes you've got to take a break from just about everything disappear, come back, and shock the world. I'm talking to that athlete. I'm talking to that administrator. I'm talking to that nurse, that doctor. I'm talking to that student. I'm talking to that communicator. I'm talking to that pioneer, the inventor. I'm talking to that entrepreneur. I'm talking to that preacher. I'm talking to that person who refuses to stay.